Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers won another game against the Giants to win the series. They'll go for the sweep later today. We're going to talk about this game. We're going to talk about the trade deadline that we didn't get a chance to talk about yesterday. And I'm going to give you a little in-person report on a few rehabbing Dodgers. So let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Dodger fans. This is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. Or even better, go ahead and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now, and then you'll never miss a day because you know we're not going to. If this is your first time listening or watching, I am Jeff Snider. My co-host is Vince Samperio. We are doing a split episode today, so I will be with you for the first half. Vince will be with you for the second half. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like you are. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. And today we've got a few different perspectives to bring because, as you know, yesterday's episode ended up being different than what we might have normally done after a Dodgers win over the Giants, because the story of yesterday was the death of Vin Scully. That was all we wanted to talk about yesterday. If yesterday happened to be your first time catching Locked On Dodgers, we appreciate you coming back. It was not a typical episode, but we felt like it was important. I hope we treated it with the respect and everything that Vin Scully deserved. I'm smiling today, but I'm not necessarily over it. It's not something you necessarily get over. But we love Vin Scully. The Dodgers played their game on Wednesday night wearing a patch, a Vin patch on their uniforms. They will wear it for the rest of the year. They also announced or hinted that they're going to do some sort of pregame ceremony on Friday before their game against the Padres, their first game of that homestand. So Vin Scully will remain on our minds and in our hearts, but we're back to talking about actual baseball that actually happened. I'm going to talk about the game from Wednesday night, the Dodgers beating the Giants 3-0. I'm also then going to talk about the Oklahoma City Dodgers beating the Salt Lake Bees 6-1, and more specifically, some past, present, and future Dodgers who played in that game. And then Vince is going to talk mostly, I think, about trade deadline stuff, and I may touch on trade deadline stuff in my discussion of this game. So the Dodgers beat the Giants 3-0. Julio pitched a very good game, 6 strong innings, and then, as I mentioned in our little post-game video, he hit a wall, and in came the destroyer of walls, Evan Phillips. Evan Phillips, I don't know what to say about him anymore. He is so good. His slider is ridiculous. He doesn't throw his fastball a bunch, but because he throws his slider so effectively, the fastball is better. He is crazy good. And everybody talks about his ERA, and ERA is great. But ERA for a relief pitcher isn't always the best gauge of how good a relief pitcher is. One of the things we know about Clayton Kershaw, especially his postseason record, is he was often let down by his bullpen. He would leave the game with runners on base, and all those runners would score and be charged to him. One of the big things about a relief pitcher, especially a guy like Evan Phillips, whose job is come in and put out a fire, is to strand those runners. And Evan Phillips, second night in a row, he faced bases loaded, nobody out. On Tuesday night, he came in with 2 runners on and nobody out, and Joey Bart bunted for a single to load the bases. It was a really good bunt. You don't expect your slow catcher to bunt. He laid down a good bunt, whatever. So he had bases loaded, nobody out. And then he got out of the inning. One of the great things about Evan Phillips, he gets strikeouts and he gets weak contact. And that's what you need. And when you're coming in this game on Wednesday, he came in with bases loaded, nobody out. Julio pitched great. And then in the 7th inning, allowed 3 straight base runners. So it's bases loaded, nobody out. They bring in Evan Phillips. And I have to imagine that the word to Phillips is, dude, get some strikeouts, get some weak contact. We're up by 3 runs. Just put out the fire. And honestly, when you come in with bases loaded, nobody out, put out the fire. The definition of put out the fire is obviously at least one run's going to score. Try to keep it to one. If it's two, okay, let's at least get out of this inning with the lead. That's your goal with bases loaded, nobody out, is maintain the lead. Don't let all three of those guys score. Evan Phillips says, I don't like that goal. That goal is not good enough for me. And what he does instead is said, I'm just going to strand them all. Okay. Okay, Doc. Is that cool? Yeah, Doc. Yeah, Evan, that's cool. He got a strikeout with that wicked slider. Dixon Machado against Evan Phillips. I think they maybe were teammates. Did Dixon Machado? Maybe I always just think Dixon Machado played for the Orioles because Manny Machado played for the Orioles. Anyway, whether they were teammates or not, Dixon Machado against Evan Phillips is a mismatch. It is a sad mismatch. And I felt bad for Dixon Machado and his family, but that's okay. He flailed and he struck out, as Dixon Machado should, against Evan Phillips. And then Evan Phillips got weak contact, lazy fly ball to Mookie Betts for the second out. Now that's great. Then all you need is the third out, except Mookie go ahead and got the third out because whoever was on second base, whichever Giants base runner, had a brain fart. And so Mookie doubled him off second. So Phillips only had to get two guys out to get his three outs. That's really efficient. In the last two nights, after bases loaded, nobody out, Evan Phillips has faced five batters and gotten six outs and allowed 0 runs. After tonight, he has now had 16 inherited runners this year, and he has allowed just 3 of them to score. It's outstanding. He is a fireman. He puts out fires. He's a destroyer of walls, whatever you want to call it. Evan Phillips is that dude. And the other story of this game, offensively, was the major league debut of Miguel Vargas. In his first 2 at-bats, he had RBI double, his first time up, ground rule double, would have been a home run at Dodger Stadium, would have been a triple if it hadn't bounced over the wall. It was hit to triples alley, just hit a little too hard. And then he stole third, and then a second time up, RBI single, infield single. They originally called it a fielder's choice. I think it was the right call to change it to a single because it was hit hard, the bat was destroyed, and I don't know that the third baseman would have had a chance of throwing him out. He had to backhand it on his knees. He got a throw to home that didn't get Max Muncy at home. I don't think he could have thrown Vargas out at first, so I like the call of changing that to a single. Drove in the Dodgers' first 2 runs and ended up being all the runs they needed. They did get 1 insurance run later. James Outman went 1 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, which means his BABIP remains 1,000. Every time he's put the ball in play, he has gotten on base, gotten a hit. So that's good. And yeah, the Dodgers got just enough offense. It was the first game all season, I think Joe Davis said, that Mookie, Freddie, and Trey all played and none of them got a hit. Trey Turner's hitting streak was snapped at 20 games. I mentioned this on Twitter. He is the first player in Los Angeles Dodgers history, only the second player in all of Dodgers history to have 3 separate hitting streaks of 20 plus games. He has done his in less than a calendar year, less than 1 season. Zach Wheat had 4 for the Brooklyn Dodgers over the course of 8 seasons. Duke Snider, Steve Garvey, Willie Davis, and Tommy Davis each had 2 20-game hitting streaks or better. But Trey Turner has had 3. This one is snapped at 20 games, which means later today he starts a new one and maybe he gets his 4th 20-plus game hitting streak. But whatever it is, they didn't need that tonight. They got just enough offense in a very well-pitched game. Yency Almonte looked good. Craig Kimbrell did not look great. He got a couple strikeouts. He very easily could have had another strikeout. Umpire missed a strike 3 call on a guy who ended up walking. You can't really blame the ump. Kimbrell missed a spot, so Barnes wasn't able to receive it very well. But if they had had the electronic strike zone, it would have been strike 3 and the inning would have gone differently, but he did just enough to get the save and secure the series win. The Dodgers now go for the sweep on Thursday in a day game against the Giants. But I did see a game tonight that did have the electronic strike zone, and that was fun too. So when I come back, I'm going to talk to you about the AAA game I went to this evening and some of the stuff I saw there. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. Hey, at BlueNile.com, you can celebrate all of life's special moments, from creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams to gifting a classic and timeless jewelry piece, all at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. So Whether you are looking for an engagement ring or just you want to buy some fine jewelry for a special occasion or no special occasion, just because you love someone, BlueNile.com can help you out. One of the great things I love about it is you really can customize your engagement ring so it is unique, one of a kind. Unique is a word that gets used too much, but unique means there's no other ring like this. And with all the different options you have at BlueNile.com, you truly can make a unique ring that is specific for you and your relationship with that special someone. If you are not good at picking jewelry, don't know for sure what you want, they have jewelry experts on hand 24/7 to help you out via phone or chat. So make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile anniversary sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. And I want to thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day. It means a lot to us. And on Wednesday night, I watched two games. I went and in person, I saw the Oklahoma City Dodgers take on the Salt Lake Bees. I live in Utah, as you all know, as most of you know. I shouldn't assume you all know. I live in Utah. All that stuff you see behind me, that's Utah. Um, that's where I live. I live about 35 miles from Smith Ballpark, where the Salt Lake Bees play their home games. I don't go to very many games, but most years when Oklahoma City comes to town, I will get up there for a game. And tonight was that night. It was a lot of fun. Dustin May was the starting pitcher for Oklahoma City, and Chris Taylor and Edwin Rios were both making rehab starts. Chris Taylor hit the very first pitch of the game over the wall in left center for a home run. A couple pitches later, Edwin Rios hit a double off the very top of the wall in dead center. Very easily could have been a home run. I believe the center field wall is 415 feet from home plate at that stadium. Here in Utah, we're not quite the same high elevation as in Denver, but it's still pretty high. So I assume that's why the field is so big. But Rios got a hold of that one. And then Michael Busch singled in Rios. So it was a good first inning for current and future Dodgers. Uh, Dustin May on the mound looked very, very good. He did allow one run in the fourth inning that didn't have to be a run. With two outs, he allowed a triple on a ball that realistically the right fielder should have just played it on a hop and it would have been a single. He tried to make the catch. He didn't get it. The ball rolled to the wall. And if it had been somebody faster, it was Matt Thaiss, I think. And I don't think he's very fast because I thought off the bat when the right fielder missed, I thought it might have been inside the Parker, but he stopped at third. And then the next batter hit a fly ball that center fielder Drew Avens took a really bad route to and still ended up diving and getting the ball into his webbing. But as he hit the ground, it bounced out. So that was an RBI single. And then May got out of it, struck out the last guy, ended up pitching those 4 innings. He had 6 strikeouts, just the 1 earned run, 2 hits, 1 walk. Looked very, very good. Velocity, the fastest one I saw was 98, but I wasn't checking the scoreboard velocity every pitch, so I don't know if that was the highest, but that's the highest I noticed. But it seemed to me like he was working more on his off-speed stuff today. I did see a lot of 86, 85, so some sort of breaking ball. I also saw some 93s, which I assume, I don't know if they were cutters, if they, I don't know what they were. But I'd have to look, and I know that AAA does have, at least some of the stadiums have whatever, StatCast stuff. And so we may have pitch type classifications on this game. I don't know for sure, but he looked really good. And physically, watching him warm up, I tweeted a video from the Locked On Dodgers account of him throwing in the bullpen before the game. It was he looked really good, and it was exciting to see him. Chris Taylor obviously looked good. He hit another homer later and had a single. He ended up 3 for 4 with the 2 homers and a single. Rios was 1 for 5 with just the one double. But that's kind of his. You're not looking for batting average so much from Rios as get you a big knock once in a while. And all in all, good team win. Chris Taylor was the only guy in Oklahoma City with more than 1 hit. He had the 3, and then 6 other guys had 1 hit each. The pitching for Oklahoma City was interesting. Dustin May started, and then there were 5 relievers, including one guy who pitched for the Dodgers for 7 years. 7 years, yeah. From 2014 to 2020, that was Pedro Baez. He came in and pitched the sixth inning after right before Baez was Justin Brule, who's pitched for the Dodgers each of the last 2 seasons. He pitched a scoreless inning, did allow 2 hits, but also had 2 strikeouts here in the win. So Baez pitched. Hansel Robles came in for the seventh and pitched one perfect inning, 2 strikeouts. He hasn't ever pitched for the Dodgers, but he has spent a lot of time, 8 years in the big leagues. Then after Hansel Robles was Jake Reed, who has pitched for the Dodgers in the big leagues last year and this year. He had a scoreless inning. And then Yadier Alvarez, former Dodgers top prospect, ranked as high as 26th by Baseball America before 2017, as high as 23rd by Baseball Prospectus that same year. Former great prospect who has been trying to work his way back. He looked pretty good. And all in all, he did give up a big a double to start the inning, but then got out of the inning, had a good inning. It was it's not very often you go to a minor league game and you know the names of all the guys who pitch, but it was fun. And while I was there, I was just watching the Dodger game on my phone too. So it was kind of divided attention, but the cool thing about baseball is you can kind of watch 2 games at once and still see what's happening, which I really like. So that's about going to do it for me tonight. Vince is going to talk mostly about trade deadline stuff. My only thing I'll say about that is seeing Miguel Vargas, seeing James Outman, seeing these guys. It kind of underscores why the Dodgers didn't do much at the trade deadline, because when you're as good as the Dodgers are, it's hard to improve your team. Juan Soto obviously would have improved the team, but they had a cost that they weren't willing to go past, and uh, the Dodgers didn't need as much improvement as the Padres did, so the Padres needed Juan Soto more. So it makes sense that they were willing to pay more. On the pitching side, obviously, it would have been nice to get somebody, but Dustin May's coming back, Walker Buehler's coming back, Blake Treinen's coming back. These guys are coming back, and uh, I think Luis Castillo would have made the team better. I think Frankie Montes probably would have made the Dodgers better. I don't know that any other pitcher who got traded would have made the Dodgers better. I don't know that anybody other than Juan Soto offensively who got traded would have made the Dodgers better. Brandon Drury, maybe, but I feel like, and this is Dodgers blue glasses, I get it. I think Miguel Vargas is a better hitter than Brandon Drury, and I think people might get upset hearing that right now. And I think in 3 years we'll look back at me saying that and say, well, yeah, obviously Miguel Vargas is a better hitter than Brandon Drury. Who's Brandon Drury? So that's my thoughts on that. I'll let Vince get to the rest of the trade deadline stuff. Thank you guys for listening, watching, whatever you're doing with Locked On Dodgers. I got to talk tonight at the Salt Lake Bees Oklahoma City Dodgers game with Trevor and Heather, who are my fellow Utahns. They're also huge Dodger fans, and they listen to Locked On Dodgers every day, or at least Heather does. And she almost made me cry again. She was telling me about after an accident that she had. She was in a car accident a couple years ago and almost died. And in her recovery, she had very limited screen time. And so she wasn't able to watch much. And so she spent a lot of time listening to this podcast. And she talked about how it helped her be connected to the Dodgers when she couldn't be watching things very much. And that meant a lot to me. I was all cried out from Vin Scully, so I didn't cry and I won't cry now. But it does mean a lot to me when I hear that this podcast means a lot to you guys. I'm not crazy enough to think it means that much to very many people, but it was good to finally meet Heather and Trevor after knowing them online for so long. And I hope to meet more of all of you Locked On Dodgers listening. I will be at the Freddie Freeman bobblehead game night. I'll be sitting out in the left field pavilion that night, so I hope to meet a lot of you. So that's going to do it for me. I know I said that a couple minutes ago. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every day, and Vince will be along in a minute.
If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you're depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor, delicious, indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. That's right, Built did that. Let me introduce you to your new favorite, cookie dough chunk puffs. They're light and chewy with real cookie dough chunks and, of course, 100% covered in chocolate. All the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it, plus it's healthy for you. 160 calories, 15 grams of protein. Head over to built.com right now and snag a box for you and the family. It's the perfect treat, perfect little dessert, perfect little snack, whatever you want it for. Cookie dough chunk puffs are there for you. Go get them right now. And remember, Built, all their bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. Go check out the cookie dough chunk puff now before it runs out. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 at built.com for 15% off. Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Vince's half of Locked On Dodgers. And I'm here to talk trade deadline. Unfortunately, yesterday would have been mostly trade deadline talk, but we had the Vin Scully episode. And there's a lot to pack into. There was an episode worth of content for trade deadline. And we're going to try to pack it in. I'm going to try to pack it in here into a segment. So what the Dodgers do, they traded for Joey Gallo. They sent Clayton Beeter to the Yankees. Clayton Beeter was a name a lot of people knew because he was drafted in 2020 when there was only 5 rounds. He was expected to be decent and was the Dodgers' number 15 prospect in their farm system by MLB Pipeline. Has the strikeout numbers in AA, didn't quite have the rest of the numbers, ERA over 5, and just seemed like it wasn't going to work out for him. So the Dodgers sent him over there for Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo is someone that the Dodgers are hoping can recover. Or not recover, he's not hurt, but can figure it out, I guess. He was traded to the Yankees last year and has just been very, very, very bad in New York so far. So bad that he doesn't even leave his apartment unless he's going to the game, or he's mentioned that he doesn't go outside basically to avoid Yankee fans. He's been booed at Yankee Stadium. He seemed to have gone through a lot there. And it's a little tough coming here to the Dodgers only because a lot of Dodger fans probably expected Juan Soto, and they didn't get Juan Soto. They get Joey Gallo, and if he doesn't hit, I would hope Dodger fans treat him a little bit better than Yankee fans did, especially since he's going to have a brand new runway, and I don't think, hopefully most Dodger fans don't hold his past against him. But yeah, what he's going to be is he's going to be a guy that can play DH and outfield, mostly against right-handed pitching. He's not good, but slightly more respectable facing right-handers. I think his OPS is almost 700 when facing righties. It's under 350 when facing lefties, so definitely don't want him in there against left-handers. I would imagine he's a platoon type of DH in outfield with Trace for now in the outfield with Chris Taylor when Chris Taylor comes back. And the Dodgers are going to give him they're going to give him a shot. It's basically who can hit between now and the end of the season between Max Muncy and Joey Gallo for at-bats. Maybe Cody Bellinger gets thrown in that mix because you can use Chris Taylor in the outfield, in center field if you need to in the postseason if Bellinger doesn't figure it out or if they want to try something else. So Joey Gallo, rebound candidate. Andrew Friedman said there's talent there. He thinks there's a happy ending, or I forget what the wording he used was, but basically they're banking on him to figure it out. All-star, Gold Glover, hitting 40 home runs a year. Just last year before he got traded to the Yankees, he was all-star with the Rangers. And yeah, if the Dodgers can just tweak something or figure something, or whether it's a change of scenery, whether it's growing his beard back, whatever it is, hopefully Joey Gallo figures it out, because if he does, the Dodgers got an all-star outfielder for, a guy that probably wasn't going to factor into the Dodgers in the next 2, 3, 4 years. So that could work out. The other thing they did was ship guys out. They traded Jake Lamb to the Mariners for cash or a player to be named later. They traded Mitch White to the Blue Jays for 2 pitchers, I believe. One of them has some juice. A lot of scouts and people on Twitter that are not scouts but are a lot smarter about baseball than me, like Nick Frasso. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Mitch White, we've compared him to Ross Stripling before, and now he gets traded to the same place Ross Stripling got traded to. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Good on him. I would imagine. I think Manoa's down right now, and I think they're down maybe somebody else. They lost Hyun-Jin Ryu for the year, so he might slide into that rotation and help them out. And good for him. He's got to face the AL East now, but Mitch White solid. But realistically, with Justin May possibly coming back, with Buehler possibly coming back, with Heaney now back, he was back down to 7 or 8 on the roster. I think they value Ryan Pepio a little bit more than him this year specifically as well. So he was down there, wasn't going to come up, and then they're going to have a 40-man roster crunch soon. So the Dodgers did. I think he only had one option left for this year, and then he's had option years after this year. So the kind of writing was on the wall, I guess, and he gets sent somewhere where he can possibly pitch into a playoff rotation. So happy for him. Jake Lamb was kind of redundant with Joey Gallo coming over, and Lamb was more of a third baseman who can also play first and outfield. The Dodgers didn't necessarily need a third or infielder. They needed more of an outfielder who can play infield. Was more of the bonus. Yeah, but with Gallo on the roster now, they don't necessarily need Jake Lamb, and Jake Lamb gets to go play for a team that's pushing for a playoff spot as well. So the Dodgers did not get Juan Soto, as you may have heard. Juan Soto went down south, down the 5 to the Padres, and I think Vin's death obviously put a lot more into perspective in terms of people that may have been mad at the trade deadline or anything else. And, what the Dodgers, it's not something we're really used to. We're used to getting the big fish. We're used to getting, the player that everyone else wanted, or at least that most people wanted. And it didn't happen this time. And, the Nationals president and GM, Mike Rizzo, he's basically said it. They had a price and the Padres exceeded it. Whether you believe the Padres package was worth Juan Soto and Josh Bell, I don't know. That's up to you. But realistically, they got what they wanted. They got young guys with control, CJ Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, both guys that debuted this year and will have, 5 more years of control after this. They got Robert Hassel and another outfielder, James Wood, who are Hassel's really highly touted. He was in the futures game. James Wood's a young guy who has been known to hit. And then apparently one of the sleepers, or the reasons that they got Josh Bell thrown into the trade, was because of Harlan something. I forget his name. Sorry. There's been a lot of names the last few days, but Harlan Susanna, I think. He was apparently somebody that the Nationals really liked, and he's the reason that they got Josh Bell in the trade. Eric Hosmer was initially in the trade as well. The Padres were going to pay down his contract. Eric Hosmer has a no trade clause to 10 teams, one of those 10 teams being the Nationals. So Eric Hosmer said, no, I'm not going there. It didn't derail the deal. Realistically, the Padres were just trying to get rid of him in terms of the actual physical body. Paying down the salary. They didn't get rid of his salary. Eric Hosmer said no, and I think Luke Voigt probably is not a big Eric Hosmer fan right now, because since Eric Hosmer said no, the Padres threw Luke Voigt into the trade. Luke Voigt went from being possible DH on a team that added Juan Soto, Josh Bell, and Josh Hader and Brandon Drury to one of the worst teams in baseball. So, Luke Voigt probably won't be sending Eric Hosmer a Christmas card this year. But yeah, the Dodgers didn't get Juan Soto. We don't know exactly what they offered. We don't know. Andrew Friedman said they offered us a package of prospects. Clearly wasn't up to that level. What the Padres gave up, CJ Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, those two guys that are highly touted prospects that have also already been in the majors and had some success. Abrams more on defense than offense, but Mackenzie Gore was pretty good. And then you got Hassel and Wood, who could be manning the outfield for the Nationals in the next 2-3 years. And then the pitcher, Harlan Susanna, I think that was his name, that supposedly has some upside, who's pretty young. And that's really, I don't know what the Dodgers offered, but I know it was the number 1, 2, I think 4 of the Padres' top 11 prospects were involved in that trade, or maybe 5. And yeah, sometimes you get outbid. The Padres were more desperate. AJ Preller has shown to be more willing to trade prospects, and I'm sure if Andrew Friedman does too, but AJ Preller trusts his scouts and everybody to kind of refill. But this is a win now move. If the Padres don't win it all in the next three years, where they still have Juan Soto, I don't know if Juan Soto. I don't think they can pay Juan Soto because they'll have Machado at about 30 million a year. They'll have Tatis around 30 some million a year, and then if they have to pay Soto around 40 million a year, that's 90 to 100 million wrapped up in three guys. And if the Padres don't win it all by then, it's going to be hard for the owner to justify paying that, especially once they were going to be in the luxury tax this year. So it happens. The Padres are good. They're good now. They honestly, adding Brandon Drury was big for them. He had a grand slam in his first game. Juan Soto, obviously, Josh Bell in the middle of that lineup. Their lineup got length, and their lineup, you can still get by. Alfaro's having a solid season, but he's still Jorge Alfaro. Austin Nola is pretty good, but hasn't been as good this year. You can get by. Profar is still going to be out there unless Drury plays. I don't know if Drury plays outfield, but there's still holes. Grisham's a pretty big hole out there in center field, although he did have a couple home runs the other day. But there's still holes there. They're not going to catch the Dodgers in the division, which means they are going to have to play. They're probably going to be the 4 or 5 seed because they'll be behind the division winners, and the other 4 or 5 seeds is going to be the Braves or the Mets. So they're going to have to play the Braves or the Mets before they get to the Dodgers in a 5. They're going to have to play those guys in a 3-game series. If they win that, they go play the Dodgers in a 5-game series. But they'll be down at least one pitcher for, Joe Musgrove goes game 1 of an all wild card game, then I don't think he'd be available for game 1 of the NLDS, even if it goes the full 3 games. I would hope that they didn't spread it out that much because, you have to give the number 1 seed a more of an advantage than just a bye. So did the Dodgers do what we thought at the deadline? No. Did the Dodgers do anything really at the deadline? No. But as we saw right away, they called him Miguel Vargas. We saw last night 2 RBI, 1 big hit, or I think it ended up being 2 hits. So 2 hits. James Outman's had a nice little time so far up. Who knows how long he'll last. Once JT comes back, once Taylor comes back, he might not last, but, another guy there. And you kind of look at the future. You see Cartaya, you see Miller, you see all these guys that are still there. Ryan Pepio's still there, could help out in the second half here down the stretch in the next 2 months. So what they put their laurels on is health, and that's Dustin May coming back healthy. Walker Buehler may be coming back healthy. Blake Trinan maybe are coming back healthy. Maybe Canley, Victor Gonzalez, probably not counting on them, but I guess that's another possibility. Chris Taylor, Edwin Rios coming back healthy. They're counting on health. They're banking on health, and they're also banking on the health of the guys they already have. They're banking on Andrew Heaney. Hopefully the pitch count that they keep him on will allow him to continue to pitch. Hopefully Tyler Anderson will continue to pitch the way he has and not the way he pitched in the 4th or 5th inning last night or 2 nights ago now. And they're hoping that Tony Gonsolin regression isn't too bad. They're hoping Kershaw stays healthy. You can hedge your bets when you trade at the deadline. Dodgers didn't hedge too many bets in this sense, and it's going to be, on everyone to be healthy. And it's a lot easier when you kind of have the division sort of wrapped up to feel that way, especially if you're going to be a number 1 or 2 seed, because realistically the NL Central is not going to catch the Dodgers, and that's something that we're not used to as Dodger fans. I believe 2019 was similar, and someone tried to say we did this in 2019 and what happened. Yeah, and they also traded for Max Scherzer and Trey Turner last year, and what happened? I mean, you can say that about every year so far that they haven't won. Was it worth it to make the trade? If you feel it's World Series or bust, then no, it hasn't been. And if you feel it was worth it to make the trade, then you're not World Series or bust. So, you live and die with what happens. Andrew Friedman said that this is the most expensive time to acquire talent, and that's just the way it goes. So different feeling this year at the deadline, but the Dodgers are probably, right up there with 2017 so far as a team. They don't have the dominant starting pitching like, you think of for a postseason. matchup right now, like in terms of, oh yeah, this is guy is getting the ball game one. Might be Julio right now. Might be Kershaw. You never know. Might be Gonsolin if he keeps it up. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting thing. They play the Padres 12 times in the rest of the way. They still play them 12 times, 3 coming up this weekend at Dodger Stadium. Those games matter a little more now because in theory, if the Padres swept all 12 games and played the Dodgers similar the rest of the season, then they would have a shot at the division. But realistically, if the Dodgers just split those 12 games, they basically have the division locked up anyway. So that's going to do it for today. I know we went a little long. I'm sorry, but just everything got thrown off with the unfortunate news that we got on Tuesday. So thank y'all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Check out Locked On MLB for another listen. You can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vin Samperio. Can leave us a voicemail at 323-863-5625, or you can send us an email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us when you get in your car or if you're at home. Take your smart device, play podcast Locked On Dodgers, and remember, you don't have to agree, you just have to listen. Have a good one.